Welcome to Growth Colony, Australia's B2B podcast. I'm Alex from Xgrowth. Each episode, we bring you B2B founders, CMOs, marketing and sales leaders to find out what makes them successful and what was behind their failures. Or as we like to call them, hard-learned lessons. If you enjoy the episode, please consider giving us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and share the pod with a friend you think could get value out of it. And of course, make sure to join the community Slack channel at growthcolony.org/Slack. That's enough from me though, let's dive right in.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode. I'm Shahin with Xgrowth, and today I'm talking to Andrei Zinkevich, co-founder of FullFunnel.io, and all the way from Croatia about how he approaches ABM initiatives and how in some cases he and his team are able to execute on some of these campaigns with really tight budget, which is something that in a lot of cases are unheard of in the ABM world. On that note, let's dive in. Andrei, thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot for having me. Super excited to discuss all ABM things with you.
Same over here, man. I'm ready to nerd out on some ABM material. So let's start with this. I'd love to hear how you define ABM. What is your approach to ABM? How do you look at ABM?
Yes, absolutely. So basically, for me, I will explain it in my own words. Account-based marketing is a part. It's not a unique marketing strategy, but it's a part of marketing operations where you tailor your message and your entire prospecting and sales process to a list of specific accounts. And that said, it means that, all leads, all prospects were not created equal, which makes no sense to prospect these companies the same way. So we need to segment them somehow. And this is how appears the key principle of account-based marketing, tier segmentation, where you have tier 1 accounts, basically companies that have the highest revenue potential, tier 2 accounts, the companies with the medium revenue potential, and tier 3 accounts, companies with the lowest revenue potential. And now the key principle of account-based marketing and what makes it different from other marketing operations is that instead of saying, hey, we are FullFunnel.io, we are a ABM, consulting company, I can say, you know what, FullFunnel.io helps companies like Xgrowth, to find and hire ABM talents, something that is highly relevant to you, to your needs. But how do I come and how do I get this idea? It requires the account research, which is another principle. So that's the key point. So account-based marketing is focusing on needs of specific companies and finding the gap between your offer and their need. And instead of prospecting and focusing on the wider or broader audience.
Got it. I love it. Now, what do you think are some of the elements that are really important to success of an ABM campaign, right? What are some of the things that you've seen that if you get wrong, an ABM campaign is really not going to work, or you're not going to get the results that one is looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's discuss some key principles or some fundamentals that should be in place, and then we can quickly discuss the most common mistakes. So first of all, it's an ideal customer profile. If you don't have a clear criteria for ideal customer profile, your ABM campaign won't work. It will be a waste of time. Doesn't matter if you have the most modern MarTech stack or whatever. So it won't help, or the biggest budget on the market. So the key idea, I see this is a fundamental mistake. Quite often when I ask, mid-size or even enterprise teams, can you describe me ideal customer profile? Quite often I hear, so we are prospecting tech companies from North America, for example. Size is like above 200 employees, and that's it. But let's be honest, that's a huge market. It's like dozens of thousands of companies. And my question is, how do you know any of these companies will have a need? Or let's say, if I just select a random company and say, is it a good fit? And they say, no, just because, because of this and that. And this is what is ICP. It's all about qualification and disqualification criteria. So you must be very clear what is inside. What are the features of companies that say that these companies will never buy from you, so you don't need to waste time on these companies? What are the features that say, or characteristics that say or that show that this company is likely to have a call with your sales team? And in some cases, this is what, lots of companies just focus on standard data like firmographic or geography, etc., vertical data. But there are a bunch of things which I used to call the non-standard criteria. Let's say we were working, with a software development company, which is a commodity market. It's a high-ticket service, but it's a commodity market because everybody in the world is doing software development. So in this case, we were focusing on a very specific narrow vertical, and we identified that market has, let's say, a high chances to buy their, let's say, expertise. And one of these non-standard criteria were the keyword SDK in LinkedIn account, in LinkedIn profile description. So we were looking for people who use in their, let's say, about section on LinkedIn that keyword that this person was dealing with mobile SDK, which is like a very specific technology, And that was a key point for us, because if this person had, usually, in the companies, if a person is not in charge of mobile SDK, usually they ignore or deprioritize this, let's say, product development. But if this person is in charge of it, there is like a high chance to, that he or she will be interested in conversation. And another benefit that's, because of their, let's say, because of their niche experience, they could easily check or do a, let's say, surface audit of mobile SDKs of their target accounts, and they could figure out what is missed. So the offer, in outreach was really simple. It was, this is, exactly that this person is in charge of this part of product development, and this is what is missed. And because probably of lack of resources or whatever, they don't have time to build it, and they just simply come out with the solution. This is what is missed in your product. This is what we can do. This is how, some of our case studies, this is the expected budget, this is the timeline, the team, let's say, team size, and that's the approximate budget, more or less. So you see, that's the key point in ideal customer profile. Quite often it's missed, and as well with disqualification criteria. In our case, just to give you a practical insight, so for the same company, there were two crucial disqualification criteria. The first one, if somebody from the executive team from these target accounts had a degree in Soviet Union. And the key reason for this, because usually these people
have development team there
in post-Soviet countries, and they know the rates. So they can always hire, a developer or software development company for lower rates. That was the first one. And the second one, which we were able to discover only after running a bunch of customer interviews, that if the person is in the first year in the company, they don't have this decision making, even if they are decision makers, but they don't have this authority. So they usually don't, involve, let's say, external help in the first year on this, let's say, in the company or on this job role. So that was another disqualification criteria. Quite often, when I'm discussing this with marketing and sales teams, I never hear this. I just hear a list of firmographic, criteria, and that's it. So this is one of the most fundamental mistakes, and basically one of the most, let's say, important principles. Because if you are not clear here, if you don't have a clear list of these criteria, then your account list will be, will be wrong. So you'll be just prospecting the companies. It will be, just you'll be playing the game of numbers or the game of probability, if you will. You don't know if there are any chances.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I mean, I'll tell you what, in our agency, if somebody reaches out to us and we jump on a call and we're like, hey, so who's your customer? And it happens, it happens more often than you would like it to. And then they go and say, oh, we can sell to anyone. And that is a red flag for me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we have so much education to do over here. I'm not even sure if I want to go down that route of educating the team that you cannot do marketing when you say we target to everyone. Usually, it's usually service-based organizations because they kind of can sell to everyone. Not that they should, but they can because it's service-based. But yeah, I hear you, and you're right. I mean, I think about some of the clients that we've had. We had a client that we had to find. We were looking at the healthcare vertical, and in healthcare vertical, that healthcare organization had to have a sales team, and that sales team had to do outbound sales, and the outbound sales team had to be larger than 50 people, right? So it's just like you drill that down and you become very granular in terms of who you're targeting. So, and it defines the success of the campaign. I think that's a solid point. What else do you think is important for a successful ABM campaign?
So the next point, I don't want to talk in this case about, let's say, the go-to-market strategy and the most important elements like positioning, vertical unique value proposition, etc. Let's say this is something that is expected by default. If you don't have this at place, and as you mentioned, if it's something like, if a company is product obsessed, saying, hey, we have the most, the best product on the market, we can just, prospect anybody, then definitely
save me from here.
This campaign is doomed beforehand. So avoiding this, let's say, fundamentals, let's expect these things by default. So aside from ICP, the next thing is marketing and sales alignment, because if you don't discuss, with sales, the ICP criteria, and again, you don't agree on tier segmentation, on account list building, then again, you'll waste time. And when it comes to marketing and sales alignment, another crucial thing here is the agreement on warm-up programs and activation programs, because ABM usually consists of two parts. And there is a transfer between marketing and sales. And the key point is when this transfer or leads hands-off should happen. And, quite often I hear that, well, we do the leads hands-off when, somebody just downloads our gated ebook, or somebody just attends some of our webinars. But it's not just, it could be, just one part of, let's say, account engagement. But that's not all account engagement that you should track or measure. So that's the key point. You need to agree with sales when exactly the leads hands-off will happen. So it could be, you can track multiple things and it shouldn't be, you don't need to have a fancy marketing stack. You can install something like Lead Feeder or Happier Leads to track website visitors and see if somebody is from your target accounts is engaging with your product pages or offer pages or whatever, what type of content they consume. You can track LinkedIn engagement. If you are doing demand generation on LinkedIn, you can see what companies are consuming your content, what people, are visiting your profiles or engaging with your content. So there are a bunch of things that we can measure. And basically you need to agree on this threshold when the prospect will be transferred to the sales. So that's another thing. Quite often I see this is a real challenge for especially in mid-size and enterprise companies. Marketing are focusing, on completely different things. They don't think about warm-up programs of specific accounts, but basically they want to hit the MQL quota. While sales are aligned with revenue, and if you have this misalignment, it always leads to infamous marketing and sales war. So that's another thing. And the last part, which is crucial, of course, here is that you need to you need to have a warm-up program. Usually, I start any workshop or any, let's say, kickoff meeting with clients when we have marketing and sales teams. I ask a question: do you agree that people buy from people they know, like, and trust? They say, yes, that's absolutely true. So in this case, I ask, so why, before you just, purchased an email outreach software, you just created this cadence and you just, bombarded the entire market? What's the idea here? So do you agree that we need somehow to aware the buying committee? Because that's the key point, in a complex B2B. The higher is the ticket of your product or your service, the more inevitable is the in-house discussion. And the more people inside the buying committee will be aware about you, about your company, about your product, the higher are the chances that you'll be able to close that deal. So that's another key point I wanted to share.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to explore, some of the examples of warm-ups that you've done. So can you share some of the examples that you've done for, like a pre-campaign warm-up or pre-campaign campaign that you've done for warming up accounts?
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, we need to separate evergreen ABM process when you have it as a part of your marketing operations. When you do it every day, it shouldn't be. One of the most common misbeliefs is that you just, you do it one time per quarter or whatever. You just, collect a list of accounts and then you do some fancy warm up, running ads or whatever, and then just do the outreach. It's not true. It's like an evergreen daily operation that company is doing, and you can fulfill your list of accounts again every day by tracking the intent data. But that's another story. Let's say if you are going to launch a pilot project, so what could be an approach, to warm up target accounts? Several ideas, and this is what you mentioned in the beginning: how to do this, programs on a RAM and budget. So the first thing is that you can, and this is what I love. I love the market research campaign as a warm-up. The idea is that, especially if you are prospecting a new market or a new vertical, you don't have this disqualification criteria. You don't have lots of use cases. And you don't really know if your message, if your marketing message is really good, so you're just making some hypothesis. So with the help of market, what is the goal of market research? Basically, you make a list of target accounts and you reach out to contribute to a specific piece of content that is very niche related. So we have done it multiple spaces. Let me give you a practical example. So a company which is selling production line automation, don't want to dive into details, but basically they're targeting the biggest European, manufacturers like Nestle, like Pepsi Cola, etc. So this sort of things. So we were doing a market research, asking how the demand, changed and how they're dealing with fluctuations in demand in the COVID era. So this is something that we have done the last year, 3 months after the COVID started. So the idea is that the buying committee is really huge. It can be, 15 to 20 people. And we needed to discuss, we were not sure who are the decision makers. So we were reaching out to production managers and we were asking if you'd like to contribute to this market research. And the key point was, to jump into call. And if they said we don't have time for a call, then we asked, we can send you questions and you can just record a voice message, and send us back or just reply in a text. And the key point here is that when we ask questions, we focus on several things. I will just give you a broader category here. So the first thing is the challenge they have, basically how they are dealing with fluctuations in demand. Next one is the pain point. What are the worst cases of this, let's say, challenge? What they are facing right now? So do they have a problems? Are people fired in their companies or whatever? What's happening? What's the pain point here? If if it exists at all. Then we ask what they are doing, to solve this challenge right now. What did they try? What worked and what doesn't, and what didn't work, sorry. And the next point is that we have something like a qualification question. Have they ever tried to automate specific things in their production line to deal with these demand fluctuations? And this is how we qualify if they, what is their experience with automation, with software, etc. And then we ask if they have ever negotiated or tried software, and we mention our company and several, competitors that are well known in this space. And this is how we understand what at least we have an idea what's happening inside. And then we ask questions, we say thanks a lot for contributing to this market research, and we got lots of insights. Aside from this, we ask some questions that are not, of course, that won't be published in that market research, but we ask questions, who is the decision maker? If, you said, for example, that you have tried this software, this automation. Who decided to present this software or to introduce this software or this automation to the company? This is how we understand the decision maker inside the organization. We can ask some questions when you are going to automate some production processes. Who usually discusses this? And what usually you discuss. So this is how we collect these insights from specific target accounts. That said, not these production managers are our internal champions. That said, they are not active LinkedIn members. That's why it's not that easy to reach them out. But this is what I was talking in the beginning about ICP, and I forgot to mention that the buying committee structure is really crucial here. You need to understand who is also involved, into, let's say, decision-making process. And in our case, one of the lowest hanging fruits was engaging with marketers or with PR managers, if that position existed in a company. Because what we did, we said that we are working on this market research, and who is the right person? We want to feature your company. And these big companies, they always seek for PR. So and we help them to fulfill their KPI. So that was a key idea how we got meetings with some people, from let's say, from the production line. Another idea here is that another key point that I need to mention, that before doing this outreach, it always makes sense to, first of all, at the first stage, involving your existing customers, or your past customers, because then in your outreach, you can, first of all, you can share the draft of your market research, you can share some insights, and you can name some logos in outreach that these companies, in our case, it was way easier to persuade other production managers to contribute to the market research when we said that Nestle and Pepsi agreed to contribute,
Got it. What is the success rate they usually see with these? Like, what percentage do say, yep, we're, open to contributing?
It varies from market to market, but let's say in this particular case, it was around 27 up to 30%, In our case, when we do it for fullfunnel.io, we have something around closer to 80%. But again, it's not comparable. If I'm reaching out, I am quite active on LinkedIn. Lots of people know me, so it's we can't compare, unfortunately, these things. But if you are doing this from scratch, so in this case, I think that again, that's just my benchmark. 20% is a good.
And so okay, so you get that market research component, and how do you get that data? How do you feed that into the next step?
Yeah, so the next step is, as I said, so we have what we are doing, just to give you a bigger picture on this specific campaign. So when we have, after this first round of outreach, when we have some names, we understand how many people will contribute to that research. We are reaching out to some industry associations, to some niche resources like websites, portals, etc. We reach out to journalists, and suggest to contribute as well, because that will give us a huge PR. But that's something that's something that is an additional benefit to this ABM campaign. And for these companies that are contributing, that's a good PR for them. So what we are doing next? We are analyzing all the answers, we just try to do another account research so we get the idea. Next, we are just doing the account research, and we are seeking, what is going in this company. We try to look if, let's say, in this specific case, we were prospecting enterprise companies. So we were looking at things if their revenue is growing right now or decreasing. So what's happening? What are the strategic initiatives, press releases, executive talks, interviews, whatever. Something that gives us better idea what are the key priorities at the moment for this specific company. So the next step is that when we are finished with this research, so we do just 100% personalized outreach. So in this case, let's say if I were interviewing you, I would say something, in my outreach, I would wait. Of course, I will publish the market research. It doesn't matter if it would be a guest post, or it would be presented on your blog. So the next step is that I'm reaching you out and I'm sending you the link. And I ask if it's possible, if you can share it across the organization, and some days, several days later, I can ask for the feedback, what people are saying from the buying committee. And what we are doing next is that we usually follow up with direct mail outreach. So I write down a one-page proposal, saying, hey, Shahin, thanks a lot for contributing to this market research. And basically, you said, this and that in your company. And basically, we did this analysis, and we have some really good case studies. If we are talking about Nestle, we can, let's say, if we are talking about some food manufacturer, we can say that we had this case study with Nestle who, had the same issue, the same challenge. And basically, we help to automate these parts of process, just simply explaining the process. And I say, this is something that might be really valuable for you. We create a content hub. Usually we use Paperflight. Previously we used DocSend, and we add just a QR code saying, this is exactly where you can, learn more. And of course, I usually personalize it by some hobbies, saying, in my case, I always say that if you'll send me, a Juventus t-shirt, I will always, even if I'm not interested, I will be on the call anyhow. So that's just to give you an idea. So we are sending some personalized gifts, and we are, saying that if you're up, I can let's have a call. I will describe you the ideas how we did it for, let's say, for Nestle, and how it might work at your company. So I will call you tomorrow, let's say, at this time. And as that said, so we write direct mail because when you send it via FedEx or DHL in Europe, you have the tracking, you have the tracking number, and you can get the notification when the parcel was delivered. So you know exactly that the person received it. Next day, the most crucial part here is doing the follow-up. And why QR code with DocSend, just to give you the technical aspects of the campaign. Because DocSend or any similar sales enablement software, it gives you insights if person, checked your content, what exactly they checked, how much time they spent in the content hub. And the key point here is, of course, that aside from the case study, you put some product presentation, some relevant, testimonials, the, let's say, product adoption process, whatever, something that helps, to educate your buyer. And the next day, you do the first thing is always a phone follow-up. And the key reason here is during the phone follow-up, you did at the first step, you did the account selection. This account passed the disqualification criteria. So you assume there is a need. Then you did a market research, and basically person shared it with you, what's going on in this company. So you have some really good details, and there is definitely a need. And the phone follow-up gives you an opportunity to, even if they say, I'm not interested, because if you send the email and they reply, I'm not interested, you don't have that much, space to get more insights or more feedback. And with phone, you can ask, so basically, this is what I shared. Does it make sense for you? Would you like, I will share the ideas how it might work at your company. And if person says something, I'm not really interested, or this is not the right moment, you can say, okay, so I don't want to push you, but we did the research, and basically, can you help me as a human, what's wrong in my perspective, why it's not the right moment, because this is what you shared to me, or you said that you're not interested, why? So you can get more insights for account disqualification, for better prospecting, for better account selection, and to refining your marketing message, Aside from this, there are two more crucial questions. You can ask, like, you checked my proposal. Can you please share with me if there were at least something that is interested or is relevant to you? This is how we can define what is really our unique value proposition. And quite often, as we spoke with you, quite often it could be, completely different thing that we expect, or that we present to the client. And then we ask questions, what was completely irrelevant to you? What makes no sense? And this is, again, you understand what should be excluded from your message. And this is how, that's why this is a pilot campaign, and it should be done on a small list of accounts. When you collect these insights, you know how to refine a future campaign, what should be improved, how to improve your prospecting, account list building again, and you can scale it a little bit, and that's an evergreen process. So you just refine and reiterate the campaign. So that's I just gave you the practical, let's say.
No, I think there was a lot of insights there, and I actually want to dig deeper, but I think either we got to do another episode or we're going to do it on another forum for us to be able to dig through this. I think you've shed a lot of light and really interesting points from the warm-up process that you talked about, from disqualification and qualification process of how to kind of get in the door with the market research and kind of use that resources and use that information to improve your chances of success, or at least improve your chances of getting further information and further data to enrich your qualification process. So I think this has been fantastic. Now, before we wrap up, I have a couple of rapid questions I want to ask you before we finish it off. Okay. So the first thing that I want to ask you is, what is one resource? It could be a book, it could be a blog, it could be a podcast, a talk, whatever it is that has fundamentally changed the way you work or live.
For me personally, it's not ABM related, but it's 80-20 in sales and marketing by Perry Marshall. It's basically helped me to improve my own performance and to focus on things that, first of all, have the compound interest and basically help me, to get the better results. So that's
80-20. Is it called 80-20 in sales?
This is it. 80-20 sales and marketing.
80-20 sales and marketing. Okay. Number 2, if you could give only one advice to B2B marketers, what would it be?
Good question, but I think get a sales experience. And if you don't have a chance, to do sales stuff, at least attend sales meetings, attend sales calls, and always chat with sales. What are their hurdles, what are their challenges, and how you can help, because marketing should be revenue aligned, revenue driven, that's the key point. And if you don't understand the sales challenges, if you don't understand the sales process, then you'll be always wearing pink glasses and don't, seeing the reality as it is.
I love it. Question number 3, who are some of the influencers you follow in the B2B space?
Yeah, Chris Walker from Refine Labs. I love his content, and I like very much that he is focusing on demand generation. He talks a lot about this. You don't need to agree with all, but he sticks to his topic, and he has a solid presence. And what's, let's say, outstands him from lots of other B2B marketing influencers, that he is never talking about, hey, let's build a personal brand, and all this, hype things lots of people are talking about. So he's sharing professional content, and it's extremely good.
Yeah, got it. All right. And the last one, tell me what excites you about B2B today?
The opportunities, to be honest, because as you know, as we chatted with you before this call, unfortunately, B2B marketing is not taught at schools, and students are not learning it. And lots of companies, they have the product obsession coming to the market and saying, well, my product is the best on this market. I just need to reach out to everybody. And this gives a tremendous opportunity for smaller companies, for startups that understand the full funnel strategy, that come up with a narrow solution, focus on specific vertical, and they don't have huge budgets, but they beat, these market leaders, and they grow very quickly. That's what I love.
Love it. Andrei, this has been a great chat. I really enjoyed it. I think the audience will get a lot out of it as well. And because of that, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Thanks a lot for inviting me. Hope it was valuable.
Absolute pleasure. Take care.
Take care. Cheers.
Thanks so much for joining us on this episode. If you enjoyed it, please consider leaving us that 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and sharing the pod with a friend. If you'd like to continue the conversation, please make sure to join the community Slack channel at growthcolony.org/Slack. growthcolony.org/Slack. Thanks again for all the support, and we're looking forward to seeing you again in the next one.